Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic. And today I'm here to talk about my biggest disappointments in television of 2024. This video is starting off on the Patreon. I'm probably going to leave it on the Patreon only for probably like a week. Then I'll send it off to the main feed. So those of you who are watching this on regular YouTube, you could have seen it a week earlier if you were a patron. But I don't really have any script for this planned. I got my list. I want to speak kind of like mainly to what this year has been like just within the context of this list, because 2022 I didn't even write anything like this. Like, oh, this show was a disappointment. 2023 there was a couple. This year I feel like is the year of disappointment. Like, there were so many shows that were that were expected, rightfully so, to be good because they had good previous seasons that ended up being disappointing. There were shows that were expected to be good by, the audience at large, and then they weren't. Then there were shows that, I don't know, man. It was just like there were so many different moments where I just felt let down by what I was seeing. And when I started making this list, it was kind of just like, I just wrote a couple things down like, man, that was a disappointment. And I was like, maybe this can be when I, do my best of 2024 video. Maybe I can mention, oh yeah, and these 3 shows were kind of disappointing. Then I ended up with like a bottom 10. And I'm like, all right, well, this could be a whole video. I don't know if it's 10. It's 9, but there's probably something I'm forgetting, but it's 9. But yeah, I mean, like, when the list gets that long, it's like, I just feel like it's indicative of the kind of year that we've been having, where just 2 years ago, this wasn't something that even crossed my mind. And now here we sit, looking back on 2024, and I was able to make a full list of disappointments that not necessitated a full video, but I could make this into a video rather than a footnote at the end of a different video. But like I said, I don't have anything planned for this really. I don't have any notes. I just got the list of the 9 shows here. I just figured I'd talk about them. They're not ranked in any kind of way. Like, I'll save the one that I've determined to be the biggest disappointment. I'm going to save that one for last, and I will cite it as the biggest disappointment. But everything else, it's not in any kind of order. It's, as a matter of fact, the list is probably in the order of chronological order, the order that the shows was released. So that's the order I'm going to read it, and then I'll skip over the one that's that I consider to be the biggest disappointment, and then that'll be that. So I don't know how long this is going to be. I don't even know what I'm going to say. Like, I feel like some of these shows I'm not even going to really remember, but I don't know. Let's just get into it. So the first one I have listed here is Masters of the Air. That was on Apple TV pretty early in the year, January, February, somewhere in that range. And I was excited for this one because, one, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the meme where it's like, when you turn 40, you either get into like smoking meats or World War II history. I've gotten into both and then expanding beyond that. I've kind of become a sponge for all knowledge. So like, but within that is World War II history, and I would be interested in this show just off the strength of that. But it was from the same people who did Band of Brothers and oh fuck, I forgot. I'm blanking on the name of the other one, but I haven't seen the other one, by the way. But Band of Brothers is like incredible and shit. So I'm like, okay, these are the same people, and the other one that is supposed to be good too. It starts with a P, don't it? Fuck, I don't know. Yeah, it's gonna bother me. Let me just look it up. Especially because I know somebody's sitting there like, it's so and so, and I'm like, and then they're gonna fucking message me like, you didn't know it was this. It was it's fucking but Pacific. I just remember. I didn't even have to look it up. So I haven't seen the Pacific, but it was the same people that made Band of Brothers. So I'm like, okay, we sticking with World War II. Now we're going into the air. We're going to have way more, technology and budget to work with. We got Apple on this. Should be a banger. And let me preface this whole thing by saying almost every show on here, like, I don't think I would consider any of these 9 shows to be bad shows. Like, they just didn't live up to expectations, whether that's my expectations or the expectations of fans as a whole. And, of course, I'm not going to speak for fans as a whole, but some of these I know. I've heard many people say, like, oh, that was disappointing. So when I say that Masters of the Air was disappointing to me, that's not to say it's a bad show. It's better than a lot of stuff that's out there. But it suffered from, well, one of the things that made Band of Brothers so good was that why am I talking about it? I covered it on the channel, but but one of the things that made Band of Brothers so good was the relationship that formed between the soldiers. And I think this show is hindered by having the characters be masked all the time. The battle sequences in the air all kind of were like the same, kind of like watch, rinse, repeat. It just wasn't very engaging. It was kind of dull. And then when it got, I think there was one episode that had like a really, really good action scene, but like the rest of it was kind of like, I don't need any of this. And it sucked because I was extra pumped for that because, like I said, I'm thinking, this could be Band of Brothers on a new level, with a bigger budget, just more technological advances, stuff like that. But man, it was just such a letdown. And like I said, it's not a bad show. It's just, I wouldn't recommend it. Like, I wouldn't say like, oh, if you watch Band of Brothers and you watch Pacific, you should at least watch this one. No, you don't need to bother with this one. But the one good thing that did come out of this one was, fuck. Here, I done forgot somebody's name again. Let me just look it up, because Anthony Boyle. I can't remember these things right as I start to type. Anthony Boyle was great on that show. And for me, if I was to like, I'm not going to do a biggest surprises or biggest wins or anything like that. But Anthony Boyle had a really good year. And despite the fact that Masters of the Air and another show that he was also on is on this list, it's not an indictment on him. He was great on both shows. So that's one good thing to come out of Masters of the Air. But like, I mean, like, I don't even feel like the action sequences were really worth seeing. That was a long time ago at this point. It might have been a full year ago. So I don't remember what I said about it, but I do know that I had coverage of it on the page. So if you watch that, you probably suspected this was going to be here anyway. So the next thing is Invincible Season 2. Another thing that, like, again, I enjoy watching Invincible, but there was a long time off. We only got a handful of episodes, and I don't even really remember, but I remember feeling like it just wasn't going anywhere. And I actually, you know what would be interesting? And I've never done this before, but it might be kind of interesting to do right now. It's kind of like read like what I wrote in my like the little caption that I put when I post the video. Like, what did I write? So the last one I did was episode 8. So that would have been I guess the finale. I wrote, all right, so I thought this was a decent finale. So decent is in all caps. Not great, not bad. It did some things well, like pretty much everything involving Mark and what he's dealt with. The Mark stuff has been strong all season, to be honest. It's pretty much everything else that hasn't worked, and the same applies to this episode. This season tried to juggle too many plot lines, giving none. Yeah, Invincible does that in general, but yeah, it was really bad this season. Giving none of them a sufficient amount of time, couple that with almost entirely removing Nolan from the show. Oh, right, yeah, he wasn't there. And you're left with a season that's a shell of the previous one. This episode and this season was less fun, less violent, and significantly less interesting. Hopefully, we do season 3. Hopefully, there are more people out there expressing these same criticisms and not filleting the show just because they like season 1 and are scared to be critical. So that was my thoughts on episode 8. I also kind of want to see, because I said, like, they didn't put the whole season out. Like, there was a gap, right? Like, where we got some episodes and then some other ones later. Yeah, yep, because my review for episode 4 is from November 2023. So, so this is really just covering the last 4 episodes of season 2. I'm going to read what I wrote for episode 7, and then I'll move on. But I just want to see. While this episode was slightly better than last week's, all right, well, let me just go back. Let me read episode 6. Like, what did I say there? All right. This episode committed an error of such of such great magnitude for me that this episode was probably never going to recover. Now, I gave it a fair chance. It was just one thing, and one thing can't really ruin an episode, but this episode did a few other things I didn't like. When you couple that with the thing it did that I hate, I think it's time to talk about the show's flaws and the flaws that I think we all collectively overlooked this season because we love this show. I don't even remember what that is. Was that the thing with Rex and how it looked like Rex was dead and he came and then he wasn't? Yeah, I think that's probably what it was. I think it's like they fake killed Rex. Yeah, they fake killed like everybody. Like they had like a whole bunch of major deaths, and then they brought like all those people back. Yeah, but I mean that really gets it. You know, the juggling too many balls at once. None of them being properly juggled. Pause. No Nolan. And that, yeah, I remember the thing with Rex was real bad. I think there was somebody else that died but didn't, and it was real bad. So, yeah, like I said, not a bad season or anything like that. Like, it's fun to watch, but like, I don't know, like all I could think of is that season 1 finale and how great that was, and then think about how like nothing this season was really all that compelling. The next thing I have on here is Three Body Problem. I know a lot of people like that show, and I like and appreciate what it went for and what it is continuing to go for, because it's not going away. And I'm still going to watch it when it comes back, by the way, because like I said, I'm not saying any of these shows are bad, but like Three Body Problem, I one being made by Benioff and Weiss, and yeah, like that just gave me the confidence of thinking like, okay, they got something else they could be doing now. Let's see what they do with this, you know, getting out of Game of Thrones type stuff. Let's see how they do this show. And then like the hard sci-fi kind of aspect to it, I dig that kind of stuff in general. But for whatever reason, man, like I feel like I just thought this show was just too, like, I don't know. I feel like I couldn't get past how urgent they were treating a problem that was like far as fuck into the future. Like I can't even remember what I didn't like about it, but I just remember feeling like this is kind of stupid. Like this feels like it's like for kids, not for kids, but like I don't know. This is kind of basic. Like I liked it I remember liking it up until they introduced whatever that video game type shit was. That I was just like, all right, man, I'm not really that into this. So like I didn't dislike it. I don't think it's bad, and I'm gonna watch it when it comes back. But like that was another one. Like I had kind of high hopes for that, and then that one started off very compelling, and then I was like, man, this shit with this game and the helmet, and then every time it was like. I remember. Did I do this? Did I cover this somewhere? I remember thinking something like they keep not completing whatever task they're supposed to complete in the game, but then they come back and like, well, you learned this lesson, so you can move to the next level. I'm like, what is this? What is this? But yeah, I don't know. I just remember feeling like that show was dumb, man. And I just wasn't feeling it. Like I appreciate what it went for, and I certainly understand how for a lot of other people. You know, you'd be like, this could be right up their alley. But like, you know, sometimes it's like two people can see the exact same thing, understand it the exact same way, but it's just not for one person and it is for another. Like we both are seeing this the exact same way, but it just, for me, it's like, eh. And for you, it's like, cool. I think that's what's happening here. Like a lot of people, they were like, oh, I fuck with this. And they probably think Mike will probably fuck with this too. But for whatever reason, it was just a thing like, eh. Like another example, and I'm going to talk about this show, I don't know when or where, but Bad Monkey was like that for me. Like, Vince Vaughn, that was the proper amount of Vince Vaughn. He wasn't too Vince Vaughn. He wasn't like season 2 of True Detective Vince Vaughn. He was Vince Vaughn, but not to a, like, you know, to the 10 out of 10 degree. But the thing is, I felt that show had a very weak and thin plot. The stuff that they did with the black guy, Neville, I think his name was, the Neville stuff was completely like just, I don't know, like almost everything involving him was uninteresting and just not done well. Like I feel like that show had a lot of flaws, easy to see flaws, and people who are Vince Vaughn people either were blinded to it or were willing to overlook it because that's just their jam. And that's how I see Three Body Problem and Bad Monkey, is that, and when it comes to like the issues, like Three Body Problem, I feel like it's more of just like, it just wasn't working for me. Bad Monkey, I feel like objectively has issues. And I just feel like for some people, they're not as big of an issue, or issues that they're, you know, willing to overlook because Vince Vaughn is just their jam. For me, I'm not gonna say like I don't like him or anything like that, but I'm indifferent to him. So like him, like I don't like Vince Vaughn per se. Like he's fine, but like I don't I don't really check for him like that. So if you don't check for him like that, the flaws are going to be a lot more apparent to you, and that's how I felt with Bad Monkey. But it's not on here as a disappointment because I didn't have no expectations of it. It was actually better than I expected it to be. I just didn't like it's gonna be. I like it's people putting in their top 10 and shit. Like I can't do it. But the next thing on here is Manhunt. That was the other Anthony Boyle show that I mentioned a moment ago. It was about John Wilkes Booth, and it wasn't about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. It was about the aftermath of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, kind of like his time being on the run afterward. And I didn't like the Lincoln on it. I thought it was too long. It didn't need to be that long. I thought Boyle was great in it, but it was just like I was hyped up for that because again, what did I say about like history and shit, right? I was like, I'm all into that shit now. So I'm like, let me watch this, let me get into this Lincoln show and shit. And I think it is gonna be crazy good. And I'm just like, it was fine. Like it was fine, but that's it. Let me sorry, I bumped the mic. Let me see how many episodes it was. Cause I don't have to like this is we're unofficial right now. Like we can be a little bit more relaxed. So let me see how many episodes. 7. So yeah, man, I was thinking 8 in my head, but yeah, 7. Like this didn't need much more than about 4. Like there wasn't a whole lot of story here for 7 hours, and it just got kind of dull. It wasn't great, and again, it's on the list because I was like, oh, again, Apple TV. Anthony Boyle, I had just seen earlier in the year crushing it on Masters of the Air. And even though Masters of the Air was a disappointment, he was still great in it. So I'm like, okay, the Anthony Boyle guy, he's playing John Wilkes Booth. Cool. And then Anthony Boyle was also in Say Nothing, which we'll be talking about that when we get to my top 10, but which is not happening now, but soon. But I didn't like the Lincoln in it. I thought it was too long. Boyle was good, but it was just fine, And when you get fine out of something that you were excited for, it's going to be disappointing. So many of you guys watching it might be like, yo, that still sounds lit. I'm going to give it a try. I do it. Like, again, like this is like, I'm not even saying these shows are bad. None of these shows I'm saying are bad. There's even one of the ones I'm going to talk about is a good show. It was just disappointing. So like, just because I'm saying it disappointed me doesn't mean I'm telling you not to watch it. Like, if you feel like Manhunt sound like it's up your alley, like I thought that too, still watch it because it might work for you. Like, it's just for me, I was like, oh man, I was hoping for something a little better than that. And in that same vein, was also another Apple TV historical show, Franklin, starring Michael Douglas as Benjamin Franklin. That was one, I ain't even finish it. And listen, like, that show was so fucking boring. And so fucking boring when, like, it's not like, oh, he's not into, like, historical stuff. Oh, he's not gonna be. I watched History Channel docuseries about Benjamin Franklin specifically. I watched the Ken Burns documentary about Benjamin Franklin specifically. So just within the scope of all the things that I've consumed, I've watched several things about Benjamin Franklin already. So I'm coming into this like this is a dramatization. Like this is gonna be way more exciting than any documentary. It took me so many tries. Like I watched the first episode, I was like, I don't know about that. And I even remember saying on Facebook, I think like, I don't know about this. Like this ain't really that. This is kind of boring. And then I got around to watching the second episode, and I didn't even finish it. Months and months and months went by. I went back, like, and I'm probably saying now at this point, it's probably within the last 2 to 3 months from now. So, like, from January 2025. So, from, like, October, somewhere October, November, December, I went back to it. And I started episode 2 over. I watched the whole thing, and then I think I watched episode 3, and I'm sitting there like I am forcing myself to watch this. Like, I am not enjoying this at all. This is so fucking boring. Like, it's amazing that a dramatization about Benjamin Franklin starring Michael Douglas was so much more boring than the several hours of documentaries I've watched. Ken Burns don't make 45-minute documentaries. I've watched a lot of shit on Benjamin Franklin. And that shit was fucking boring, man. That's one of the only shows that not only did I not get through, but I didn't get through it, came back to it, didn't get through it a second time, and I only got through 3 out of I think it's 8. And I'm sitting there like, yo, you got 8 episodes of this shit? If it was 4, maybe I'd have just forced it. But 8? And this guy has an insanely interesting life. And this show focuses on I can't say the least interesting, but the least interesting to put on TV. If you're gonna choose a part of his life to make a television show about, choosing to make it about him trying to get France to help us in the Revolutionary War, that's not the best decision, dog. And man, that shit was so fucking boring, dog. The only reason that's not Franklin is the worst show of the 9, and it's the only one I would say Franklin was not good. I've never tried to get through something twice and still only got through 3 episodes. It's not like I got to episode 5 or 6 and was like, all right, I can't handle it no more. I forced myself to get through episode 3 and was like, you're trying too hard. This is enough. So Franklin, I would say, was not a good show, but the reason it's not the number 1 disappointment was because my expectations weren't terribly high. I didn't know, and it's kind of the same with Manhunt. It was oh, I have interest in this now. I might not have had interest in this 5 years ago, but I have interest in this right now, and it's on Apple TV Plus. I had every reason to be hopeful, but it wasn't things that I was looking forward to, returning seasons of shows, stuff like that. So I wasn't looking forward to it, that much, but it's definitely the obviously it's not the biggest disappointment, but it's the worst of the 9 shows for me. Now to the best of the 9 shows, Slow Horses, season 4. A less than great season of Slow Horses is still better than most things on TV. But I can't deny that this was not a great season. Again, not bad. And Slow Horses is probably the best show of the 9, but and that's arguable, by the way. I'm not saying that. I'm these last 4. I have 4 left. Well, 3 after Slow Horses, but these last 4 are all could all vie for that title of what the best show is that's on this list. But Slow Horses is inarguably a good show, and this season, man, it just did not work for me at all. I'm not gonna say at all, but the story wasn't that interesting. Hugo Weaving wasn't that interesting. I don't know. Let's. I kind of like the thing where I go back and read my old comments. Let's see what I have here. I'm going to look at episode 6, so that'll be obviously the finale. The headline or whatever you call it says Slow Horses season 4, episode 6 breakdown, fitting finale for an unremarkable season. I really like to get the temperature in the room as it pertains to this finale, because from where I sit, just like the rest of the season, it was fine, but entirely unremarkable. This is how when I'm writing, the way that I'm inflecting, that's how I write in my head anyway. I said last week that this season is taking a long time to tell a pretty uninteresting story. Oh, yes, I remember saying that all season. And I think that continues to be evident here in the finale. The reveals of the finale didn't land at all for me, because not only was none of this new information, it just wasn't that interesting. By the end of the episode, all I could think was, that was what we dragged our feet all season working toward? Throwing a lot of characters who did nothing more than take up space. And this was unfortunately a disappointing season for me. Let me also read my episode 5 one, and then we'll move forward. But yeah, man, still love Slow Horses, but man. Oh, I did one video for episodes 3, 4, and 5. Not having posted any videos for this show lately isn't entirely reflective of my thoughts on the season, but if I'm being honest, if the season was better, I'd have been much more diligent with posting, because I'd be excited to talk about the show. I haven't been itching to talk about this season. And don't get me wrong, I haven't missed an episode. I watch right away. I still enjoy the show a great deal, and this season has done a lot that I've liked, but I think it's pretty indisputable at this point that this is the least of the 4 seasons. I just want to point out that I don't know why people act. I've said this so many times, but I'm going to say it the fuck again because maybe some new person's watching and heard it before. I don't know why people act like criticizing or being critical or holding a show that you like to a standard, they act like it makes you less of a fan. Like, invariably, if you have 4 seasons, one of them is going to be the least of the 4. They're not going to be all exactly the fucking same. One is going to be your least favorite. It could be a 10 out of 10. And it'll still be you can still have a least favorite one. And I don't feel like, that's why I said, like, I feel like it is indisputable. This is the least of the 4. And if somebody then responds by trying to defend the season, you just saying whatever the fuck you want to say. You're not having a conversation with me, because if you want to have a conversation with my point, you're going to tell me which season is worse. That's what you're going to tell me. Or again, less good, whatever. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to tell me which one is actually the least of the 4. You're not gonna start just defending this one because you're not even operating within the rules of logic. So anyway, a show that is usually pretty short on flaws has a multitude of them this season, and quite frankly, has taken a long time to tell a fairly uninteresting story. I went back and forth with that one, didn't I? So, but yeah, I mean that sums up how I felt about Slow Horses. So we're running kind of long. Let me tear through these last 3. Doom Prophecy. That's another one that, we just wrapped up coverage of. Who the fuck is we? I just wrapped up coverage of that here. I'll say the same stuff real quick that I was saying about it while I was covering it, that a lot of you who are watching this probably saw. It did not feel like Doom. Felt like Game of Thrones. Felt like Star Wars. The story was not good. Not very interesting. Travis Fimmel played the same fucking character that he played in everything else, and I'm tired of it. Had a lot of shit that kind of like made me roll my eyes. Like it was just, all it felt like was an opportunity. It felt like an attempt to capitalize on the name and the popularity of the films, and not to make something that complements the films. Having said that, it ended strong. I'm gonna, I'll be in on a second season. I'll give that a chance, but Doom Prophecy was a big letdown because I was expecting it to be on par. I'm looking like, can I get something similar to the movies on the small screen for 8 episodes? That'd be outstanding. And I got 6 episodes, which is fine. If that's fine. But like it's 6 episodes of 5 episodes of aggressive mediocrity, and then a 6th one that was pretty solid. But yeah, Doom Prophecy was in the running for the biggest disappointment, just because I had incredibly high expectations for it, and it wasn't all that great. But Doom Prophecy delivered in its finale, and at the end of the day, my expectations can only be so high of something that I haven't already seen, some of it before. I can't say like my expectations are fully based on the movies, because that's the movies. I can't base that on this. Denis Villeneuve didn't make this show like he made the movies. I can't tie the 2 things together. My top 2 or bottom 2 shows that are disappointments are ones that I can base incredibly high expectations on based on how much I like the previous seasons. So right now, the one that is not going to get the title of most disappointing is Silo Season 2. If you're following along with my Silo coverage, I have found this to be a uninteresting, drawn out, tedious, boring season, with Juliet getting little side missions that all just felt like they were all delay tactics to hit us in the finale, or in this case, the second to last episode as well, with some, big reveals or whatever. And I've said all year that there's been shows like that felt like they've just been kicking the can down the road to hit you in the nuts in the finale. And that's what is happening with Silo. That is what has happened with Silo. The reason that Silo is not the biggest disappointment is because Silo's not done yet. It's January 15th, and this is Wednesday. So tomorrow night, Thursday night, I'll be able to watch the finale of Silo. There's still I'd say fairly high probability that the finale gonna bang. And if the finale bangs, then it's gonna do something that my biggest disappointment didn't do, which is end well. And that's something I can say about all these other ones. Slow Horses finale, it wasn't great, but it was a good episode to end the season. Doom Prophecy, it was the best episode of the season. Not saying much, it was probably the only good one. And Silo season 2 still has the potential to have a great finale itself. And I'll just look back like, man, that season was a fucking bummer, but at least it had, 2 bangers at the end. It could also end up doing the same thing that the show that I'm selecting as my biggest disappointment did, but I don't feel like that's likely because what the biggest disappointment did is kind of unprecedented. So my biggest disappointment of 2024 is House of the Dragon Season 2. It did all the things that I've already mentioned, except that it never actually paid off jack shit. It didn't have that banging finale. It kicked even that can down the road. Like, I don't remember how many episodes it was, but it started very early on to put a lot of different parties converging on one place, Harrenhal, I think it was. And all these parties are meant to converge on Harrenhal. You think like, well, that's when all the shit's going to go down. And this big battle at Harrenhal never happened. And it felt like they were teasing that as being about to happen for about 5 or 6 episodes. To never end up doing it was unforgivable. This was never a question. Like, it was always going to be this. Let me read what I wrote for House of the Dragons finale. Oh my God, I spell it wrong. Shit. Good episode, all-time bad finale. I mean, look, you already know what I'm going to say. You already know what I'm going to say because I've been saying it for weeks. A show that was criticized last season for moving too fast and not fleshing things out enough spent the entire second half of this season dragging out the story to set up a battle that never happened. It's yet another self-inflicted wound within the Game of Thrones universe, and I don't understand why they continue to self-harm. That's all I wrote, but yeah, I mean, a lot of these shows, I don't really remember them that well. I just remember that I didn't like them, and I remember that they left a bad taste in my mouth. Some I remembered some details about, some I didn't. This shit's burned in my fucking memory because, like I said, they didn't even pay the shit off. They kicked it all the way to next season. Like, I'm gonna get mad talking about it again if I start going. But like, yeah, that's an unforgivable move to me. Like, I don't care why. I don't care. Like, give me a 4-episode season and have the back. Like, I don't give a fuck, dog. Like, if you want to make don't make an 8-episode season if you don't got 8 fucking episodes. And this shit had like 3 fucking episodes worth of story, and they stretched it out to 8. It was long, boring, disappointing, and I take that back. It had its moments because now I'm starting to make the show sound bad, and it's not. Again, House of the Dragon isn't bad, but what this should have been. What it set itself up to look like it was going to be, it didn't even come close to achieving. And it seemingly didn't even try. It just fucked with us all year until it was like, it fucked with you. Now the season's over. You stupid fuck. You watched the whole thing. We tricked you. Didn't shit happen and you watched the whole fucking 8 episodes. That's what that felt like. Like, and like I said, that's to the point where it's like that, like, if it wasn't Game of Thrones, I'd be like, I'm not, like, fuck this show. I'm not even going to come back for season 3 because fuck you. Like, I've never seen anything like that, man. Like, oh, that was so bad. So, that's my disappointments video. We're at 33 minutes, so it went on a little bit longer than I expected. I feel like I didn't talk about any one show that much, but yeah, that's the list. Masters of the Air, Invincible Season 2, really the second. Well, no, the second half came out during 2024, but the whole thing was a disappointment. 3 Body Problem, again, just not my speed. You guys might like it if you haven't watched it. Manhunt, John Wilkes Booth's show with Anthony Boyle. Anthony Boyle, great show, mediocre. Franklin, terrible. I couldn't even get through it. 3 episodes, 2 tries. That's all I could do. Slow Horses Season 4, again, Slow Horses, good show. Weakest season of the 4. And the only one that I would say, like, I just didn't, it was fine. All the other 3 are all good or better. This one was fine. House of the Dragon Season 2, fuck you. Doom Prophecy, again, same deal. Dragged shit out. It was only 6 episodes, and it still dragged shit out. But it had a decent finale, and it did enough to make me interested in Season 2. The whole Season 1 felt like setup for Season 2. And then Silo Season 2, which could end up, I could end up being remorseful that I gave House of the Dragon the award. But I feel like Silo's probably going to pull off a solid finale, and I'm just gonna look back at it like, wow, episodes 2 through 7 could suck my dick, but the rest of it was great. So that's all I got. Let me know what you thought in the comments. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, also if you're watching it on the Patreon, still let me know what you thought in the comments. And until next time, peace.